Here for the last 3 or 4 weeks, they've been running a series of questions in the LA Times on Saturday in the religious section. And the editor started it by asking a question: how long should a sermon be? And many of them said 3 minutes. For the span of interest cannot be held. They cannot be attentive beyond, say, 3 minutes. For some stretch it to 5. And then, this past Saturday, John Charles Thomas Jr., you're familiar with the name, the great singer. Now, whether he is a junior or this is his son, I do not know. But he wrote a very sweet letter and said he could take 15 minutes if it's well prepared and if the man who speaks it is convinced of what he says. If he really believes what he's talking about and he's prepared his thought, 15 minutes would be perfectly all right. But he added this much. He had a sermon that disturbs, the sermon that in some strange way moves the individual, disturbs him, like the comfortable person, the complacent person. It is almost certain that that preacher has an outside source of income. Now that you may take it for the whole vast world. Fortunately, my heavenly Father saw that my earthly father could supply me with that outside source of income. That I did not have to take what I would have to take were I not free of Caesar's will. But when I first came into the city back in 1945, I was confronted with just such a picture. I had already spent quite a few $1,000s to come here. I brought my family of 4, really, 3, and my wife's niece. And we lived in the Gaylord Hotel. And I think the room was $40 a day. That is a suite because there were 4 of us. 2 little girls, my wife and myself. And we ate in hotels and lived normally. But it was quite an expensive journey. And we came across the country by train in those days because planes were not flying, not commercially as they are today. And so the journey on a train for 3.5 days across the country, and then here, and he tried overnight to shut me up because I was controversial. That I said that I do not believe in the historicity of Jesus, not as is described by the precepts of the world, but as I get it out of the Bible, yes, but not. And he said, well, as far as I'm concerned, I teach the historicity of Jesus. And so you cannot take my platform or any of my groups. And he had dozens scattered around the area where I was already contracted to speak. So John Charles Thomas was quite true. When this man learned that I was not dependent on his little monies to go back to New York just as I came, he relented. He relented too late, though. After I took one of those that really represented him and gave her all the money that he could have made, he went through the ceiling. It was only money. It wasn't historicity at all. It was a matter of money. He thought I would disturb those who gave to him generously. And so if you disturb the complacent, the comfortable, who support the churches, because they're sung to sleep 3 minutes, so they can't go beyond 3 minutes. 5 minutes, that's too much. By then they're snoring. Ask anyone, what is the text of today's sermon? And they can't tell you. But it was something to do. You were seen in church, and therefore you were a holy man. Like the chap who just dropped out of the skies with $500,000 extorted. He was a Sunday school teacher, a very good member of the church, a junior in the Mormon University, Brigham Young University, and undoubtedly a very bright lad. But he could extort $500,000 from the company. Of course, he only had time enough to spend $30 of it. They got him, and they got almost the $500,000. But to come back to the substance of it all, when you take the pulpit, you are almost warned not to tread on toes, not to tread on anything. Just leave it asleep. And if you don't, well, then out you go, and we will simply call a meeting and bring in another preacher who will not disturb. And if he doesn't have an outside source of income, he will have to toe the mark. Well, that is life in this world. Fortunately, he who sent me saw to it I would not have to toe the mark. For when he embraced me, and he was infinite love, and then sent me and told me, down with the blue bloods. In other words, with all protocol, with all ceremony, with all that is now given off in the form of Christianity, or religion for that matter, done with it by ignoring it, and go all out and tell exactly what you are going to experience. And so I began to experience God's plan of redemption. And so I was bold enough to go out and tell it just as it happened to me. Because I have what we call in Barbados a hind claw. When you find people chasing through the night to catch crabs, and the crab can run as fast as the individual behind him, and he can run in every direction just as fast, forward, backwards, sideways, anything, and they're going to make a wonderful dish out of crab meat. Well, the crab can go to a precipice. It could be 70 feet tall, and right below is the ocean. And that crab can go just as fast as a man can run and disappear, but he isn't falling. He has a hind claw. And he simply holds on and simply buries himself and hides himself. If the man goes 1 second beyond his speed into the water, 70 feet below he goes. So we speak in Barbados of having a hind claw. That you can run and break your neck, but you aren't going to break it if you have a hind claw. So let them try to get you off the pulpit, get you off the stage, all these things. And if you really are sent, it will be prepared for you. You will have the hind claw. You will have that outside source of income. So you can speak boldly and tell exactly what has happened to you.